I activated the recording.
Perfect. All right, good. Yeah, let's hit it, brother. What do you want to talk about today?
So the first question I would like to ask you is, how was the vampiric ritual or the dark gift ritual? How did it act on you, and what consequences you had to face with this ritual?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna adjust my
Oh,
mic.
no problem.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, no. So there was a lot of unexpected stuff with that ritual. Well, first of all, uh, the first unexpected thing is I didn't know that I was gonna really do that ritual until it was about a month away, and I just saw it. I just saw that we were putting it on the website and whatever, and so I hit up ND and I just asked him, hey, can I help you out with this? Um, it's interesting because I've always kind of played with vampirism through my life, but over the last 6 months maybe I've started taking it pretty seriously, and I'm really working through a lot of what ND puts out in Scholomance, and I've I've been healthier than ever. I've been I actually stopped drinking coffee completely because it was making me too jittery because I just got like infinite energy. I wake up with just tons of energy, and it lasted the whole day. So vampirism has done some awesome things for me. So I hit ND up and asked him if he would mind if I helped him with this ritual, and he said not at all. And so at that point, what I started doing every day, just as I was out living my life, I would start feeding off of somebody, draining their blood essence, and then collecting that and saving that for that ritual. So when we got to the point of the ritual itself, I was I I got hit with COVID, and I was sicker than I've been in a very long time, and the full effects of COVID had hit me that morning before I was going to do that ritual, and and so I basically slept all day. As soon as the sun set, as soon as it was completely dark, I just woke up like an alarm clock had gone off, and came out here and did the ritual, and and it was powerful. One of the things that was really cool, one of that ND actually insisted that we do is as we read the names of everybody who is participating in the ritual, that we would drain a little bit of their energy and put it into the mix, and and that was really interesting for me because it was like every single person had a different flavor to them, a different feeling to their energy. I could tell as soon as I started taking energy from some people, I could tell the people that were not sincere, the people that really weren't going to follow through with this ritual. I could feel that as I was taking their blood essence. So no, it was a really spectacular ritual. But basically, like I had 1 hour that I came out of my sickness. I felt great. I did the ritual, and then I went back to sleep for about 3 days. But yeah,
I
it was a,
participated to the ritual, and
it, it sounds like the ritual was pretty intense on your end, is because
yeah, very intense on me because I found my path in vampirism, and I'm very happy with what Andy Blackwood gave to the people. It was a
yeah
very nice ritual. In the first days was very difficult because the changing to be part of the immortal chain
yeah.
is intense. And now I feel regenerated with the squares of Abraham Lincoln the Mage, and some
Oh,
researching.
he's completely blew my mind with his interpretations of the Abramelin squares, because I've used the squares my whole life, and I never really saw them in that vampiric way. But yeah, no, Andy is really amazing. He just kind of, as far as my view, he just came out of nowhere, uh, all of this information, and it turns out, because that's what I told him when I first started talking to him. I was like, buddy, like literally, you just came out of nowhere and you know all this stuff. And he goes, I didn't come out of nowhere. He says, do you not remember about 6 years ago, you and me had a consultation? And indeed we did. I did a consultation with him, and he was asking me some of the beginnings of vampirism. I gave him some tips, and then he just went and ran with it, and spent the last six years mastering it. And not only, you know, because I told him about some of the things that I had heard of, maybe mythologically or whatever, but what he did is he would go, he actually would go to the Carpathian Mountains and go into the forest and find the vampire spirits there. You know, he and I are actually, this is going to be something really fun. We're planning to get together and to do a trip to Dracula's castle and hopefully spend some time in there. I'd like to do some rituals around Dracula's castle for sure.
Yeah, this would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. What else you got for me, bro?
How the idea to create Become a Living God with video courses and rituals for hire once came to your mind, and what made you first when you had the idea to make it true and concrete?
No, that's great. You know, I really, okay. So really, what I've got to give a lot of credit to Timothy here with the idea of doing video courses. That never would have occurred to me. I didn't even know that people did video courses for anything. I didn't know that was a thing. You know, I learned a lot of stuff, you know, on business, but I would always go to a conference and I would always meet the people in person. So that's kind of how I knew that you can learn the best, was that I never even knew that video courses were a thing. But then Timothy, well, actually, it's interesting because I had to. It feels like when the universe is, or when magic is going to manifest something, it almost like starts bubbling up in different ways, and so you can see little bits of the thing coming up before the full thing comes. So with this, like, I had a few different people in the year leading up to meeting Timothy. A couple different people asked if I'd want to do any kind of video series, any instructional videos, this kind of thing. And so a couple other people had floated this to me. So it's almost like I think the universe or magic was trying to tell me to do this. And then finally, Timothy, I think, was the third person to approach me and says, "Hey, have you ever wanted to do video?" And I thought, "Yeah, okay." I said, "Well, first, I said, no, I have no interest in doing video. I'm a writer. I'm just a writer. I just want to write about stuff. I want to perform magic." And he's like, "Well, I already see you. You know, you're on Facebook helping people. You're answering people's questions. You're doing a lot of stuff, interacting. So this is just basically going to be a way you can do that with video involved." And I'm like, I was open enough to it to explore it. And I'll tell you what, it blew my mind how powerful of a tool video and video courses and you know, even doing my weekly video blogs and all of that. I never thought that would be as powerful a tool as it is to connect with people. I always thought that writing was. I always thought, like, if I wrote a book, then that book would get, you know, that would be the thing that would get the message to the most people. But it's actually not. So yes. So a lot of see, yeah, you go. You got the original back in the day.
Yeah,
So
it's awesome. I love this book. It's my preferred one on my shelf.
you know what's funny is we just barely finished. Let me actually go grab a book real quick. So we're putting out here December 27th, the Deification Magic Spellbook. Now, this is Martin McGregor, Andrea Vitamus, N.D. Blackwood, and myself. So we'd all sent each other our manuscripts. And I remember, you know, online just scrolling through what everybody had written and thinking, okay, this is good. All right, it all fits together. But then when I got the book actually in print, when I got this in the mail and opened it up and started reading it, the information hits me in a different way when it's actually a physical book. Flipping through the pages, it makes more sense. My mind can organize the information better. I have a much more enjoyable experience reading the actual physical book. Reading it on, and so I went back to the different contributors and I was like, "Hey, your contributions are great, so much better in print for some reason. I think that's maybe just how my mind works, but no, I do think that there is something. I think there's something that we're missing out on by just having a digital experience. There is something about being able to touch and hold the book.
I like to touch a true book, have it in my hands, and feel the leather, the
Yeah.
life that was inside before. It's
Well, and that's a part of it
of the books of Become a Living God because every time it's a wonderful experience to read each book, and with
yeah. I
they are beautiful books and they merit to be read.
well, so that's an interesting thing because you asked about the how Become a Living God, how we started with the ideas of doing video courses and stuff, and actually that was all we were going to do. We weren't going to do books at all. We were just going to do online deliverable electronic stuff. We didn't want to sell any products, but there were a lot of people asking me to reprint Evoking Eternity, for instance. And I've had a couple publishers ask me if I would want to reprint it. And I actually went to one of my publishers, one of my old publishers. What was his name? I can't even remember. It's dang it, it's been so long since I published with that guy. But anyways, I only did one book with him, but I went to one of my old publishers and I asked, hey, would you want to reprint Evoking Eternity? And he says, no, not yet. He goes, I'm seeing what you're doing with Become a Living God. And honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. A lot of people in the community are pretty upset about what you're doing. And so maybe, see if you can get Become a Living God to work for you, or maybe quit that. And then we'll see if we'll put the book out. I was like, oh, okay, I see. I made you a ton of money publishing my books, but now you don't believe in me. All right, and that was actually something I got a lot when Become a Living God first came out. There was a lot of people that hated it, and mainly I think it was so new. Nobody was doing videos of rituals. Nobody was talking this openly about black magic, and so it was really a new thing for people to have. Maybe it's like to have their secret exposed to the whole world. Maybe was part of it. But I had a lot of pushback, and I had a lot of people because it was a completely new approach to talking about magic. People aren't used to new things, so I got a lot of pushback. I had a lot of people telling me this isn't going to work, you're going to fail, and actually those are the things that I like to do best. The things that I think I'm going to fail, things that maybe this isn't going to work, but I'm going to try anyways. Those are always the most fun things to do, and those are the things that usually tend to pay off the best as far as the reward and risk.
And I just would like to present the Scholomance.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
I
Just
read it yesterday, and it's an
yeah.
awesome book on vampirism. It even takes things from the first book, God wrote in, and he wrote it again to the people. And take this book if you want to change your life, because
Yeah, oh for sure. One thing about books is that you're showing me that one of the things that's that Timothy and I kind of agreed on when we started doing books is we weren't just going to do books. Oh, and that's kind of the evolution of why we started doing books. Is I went to Timothy and I'm like, here's the thing. A lot of people want my books, and because we're doing Become a Living God, not many people not many professionals in the community believe in me, and so if I want to do it, we're going to have to do it ourselves. And so we started thinking about it. That's when we actually got that very first book was the complete works there that you just showed off, and so we just put all of my books together, slammed them into one big tome, and after that it was really. There was such a demand for it, but I didn't really want to just put out books, just like regular books that you get on at the bookstore. I wanted all of our books like you see there's a consistent theme. All of our books are like a magical talismans. So actually having the book, you said this before, I can't remember the words you used, but basically each book has its own spirit. You can feel the different spirit in it. Every time you read the book, you're actually connecting more with the spirit of that particular book. So they all have we all have, particular sigils that will embed. And to brag about the books too, the foil stamp, because that's a gold foil stamp. You see it glimmering and glittering in the light. I fucking love that. I love the magical nature, and for some books. So for deification magic, this is and I think for all of our spell books, I think we're doing gold foil, but we'll do silver foil if we want to do a specific look. We'll do different colors of foil in there to have actually completely different magical effects. And that's also why when we send our books out, because I was, in talking to Timothy originally about how we wanted to do a book publishing company inside of Become a Living God, I was like, these aren't just books. The things we're selling aren't just books. It's not just a circle. These are magical tools. Yeah, and they need to be treated as such. And so so with all of our books, we send them out in these velvet bags that Become a Living God's logo on them. But the velvet is actually something that you can keep your magical tools in to keep energy from just like random energy from collecting on your tools.
Use your velvet box for
Yeah.
a lot of things to put a magic lamp, animal bones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Black velvet is very powerful to protect a magical tool.
Yeah, and so if you're keeping your magical tools in a temple like I've got, where it's a full-time temple, you don't need to necessarily protect things as much. But especially if you're traveling with your tools, or if you have them, if you have your magical tools stashed away in your underwear drawer, it's a good idea to have some kind of protection on it.
Yes, because unfortunately, I have to hide my magic to some people, and I put on the side my ritual tools when I'm done with the ritual, and I would like to have a temple that is always ready to operate. That I must hide things, and the velvet packaging is really nice for that.
You know what would be really cool? I'm just having this idea. This is a cool idea. It'd be really cool if black magic gets so, I don't want to say popular, but the practitioners of black magic, if the practitioners of black magic got so serious that people started opening up temples. Like, for instance, my temple right here is not just for me. I open it up to local things. Like for instance, sometime in January, I'm just going to invite a bunch of people over here. We're going to do some satanic rituals. It's not going to be something I'm going to charge anybody for. It's just like a kind of a local coven, so to speak, but not really a coven, but just that more or less that I'm opening up my temple space to the rest of the world. And it would be really cool, like, just if there was a lot of that, if people would buy, black magicians would buy a building, turn it into a temple, and just say, hey, black magicians, you can come here and do your rituals. That'd be so cool.
It would be effectively.
And I know one black magician that I actually like quite a bit is Winter Lake. He's a Satanist and black magician. I've had a couple dealings with him in the past. Really great guy. And he bought a church, and he's converting it into a Luciferian church up in Ohio. So
wow.
So actually I want to just plug this for everybody. In April, the end of April, I'm going to be speaking up there in Ohio at his Luciferian church at the Left Hand Path Consortium. So you can check that out, Left Hand Path Consortium 2023.com.
I would like to come, but I have problem with American visa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They'll arrest you at the airport.
When I went to US, I have stolen a little bit of money to one roommate, and he called the police. And I was a minor. It was a little amount, but it puts me in trouble to come back to USA.
Yeah.
So I got to go to the embassy and try to have a visa, but it's really
You know,
hard.
or you can fly to Canada and just come over the border, just sneak over. We won't tell anybody. But right now, it's actually crazy. So right now, with the Biden administration, running the U.S., they're not enforcing immigration right now. So basically, they don't. I mean, flying over is one thing, but walking over any of the borders, you can walk over the southern border, you can
You
walk
know
over.
what they are afraid of? They're afraid we stay in US and we find a job over there and we stay and we come back. We don't come back to our countries. So the best
Yeah.
thing to say to the embassy is, I have a job and I'm gonna come back to France after that.
Yeah. Well, cool. What you got? Any other questions you want to run by me?
Yeah, for sure. I think you explored white magic before starting with deep demonic magic and the diabolical. Uh, did you had these experiences with white magic before exploring the left hand path?
Yeah. No, a great question. Yeah. I think most people are probably scared of jumping right into black magic and into demons. Um, I was I was interested in it for sure, but it was scary. But so even to go back before I really started practicing, because I was playing with Ouija boards when I was 12 years old, but I wouldn't consider that practicing magic. That was just playing around. I didn't really start practicing till I was about 15, 16 years old, 15 years old. And but when I was about 12 years old, like I said, I started playing with Ouija boards. I started getting a real curiosity about spirituality. And the first thing I tried was actually, because the church I was in, I was raised Mormon or LDS, and uh, in that church, when you turn 12, they give you, if you're a boy, they give you a blessing that basically, let me see how to explain this. They anoint upon you the priesthood at 12 years old. That you become a deacon first at 12, and then at 14 a teacher, and then a priest at 16. And so you have the priesthood, and what you can do with this priesthood is supposedly, in theory, you raise your arm to the square. Now, this is a Masonic symbol. A lot of things that go on in the Mormon Church are based in Freemasonry. So you raise your right arm to the square. And the way I was taught to do this is, as you're doing this, you imagine that God's divine light is coming into your hand, into your body. And then you speak and you say, in the name of Jesus Christ, and then you can, with that, you can't perform miracles. You can perform miracles once you're 18 years old and you get the full priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, they call that. But with this minor priesthood, you can raise your arm to the square and you can specifically call upon the ministering of angels. So I got this priesthood, and I went out in went out in my backyard, my dad's house. I made sure it was a nice sunny day because I associated the sun and light with God. So I went out and did that, raised my arm to the square, said, by the power of the Aaronic priesthood in the name of Jesus Christ, I call upon the ministering of angels. And I had full faith. And I opened my eyes and I was waiting for something to happen, and nothing fucking happened. and and so I was like, oh shit. So I did it again. And had full, and mind you, at this point, I was a good kid. I wasn't having sex. I wasn't doing drugs, smoking cigarettes. I was, going to church every Sunday. I was a good kid. So I was like, hey, I'm worthy. There was no question of whether or not, if there's a worthiness issue, I was definitely worthy. They gave me this priesthood. They said it was going to work. They told me exactly how to do it, and I did it, and it didn't fucking work. And I'm going to be honest, I was pissed off at that point. I felt like I'd been sold a fraudulent product, and so I at that point, that's when I really started looking into witchcraft, because I'd come across witchcraft enough times in my past that I knew it was a thing, I knew it existed, I knew it had power, but I was always like waiting, saying, I believe the whole idea of God's power is more powerful than the devil's, and so I was going to stick with God. But then when I had God's power, I was like, wait a minute, there's nothing here, and so that's when I really started turning hardcore towards witchcraft and studying that. And my thought, I guess, is like, if the angels won't show up, maybe the demons will, maybe the devil will show up, and but I guess I wasn't ready to go all the way. So when I first started practicing, I actually I started with Wicca when I was like 15 years old. I started with Wicca. I did I'd light a candle and just say, by the powers of fire, water, earth, and air, and then I would just say what I wanted to have happen. I would visualize it, and I would get really, really crazy good results. But it didn't take long. I mean, like as soon as I got it working, as soon as I figured out how to get magic to work, I instantly started going to the dark side, started going to demons, to Satanism, picked up a satanic Bible and a Necronomicon really, really early on, and started working out of those.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's crazy because even with like the Necronomicon, the Satanic Bible, those are things that like I wasn't really aware of. But strangers would come into my life, like for the Necronomicon, for instance. I was working at a fast food place, and this guy came in. He didn't live in the area. He lived up north. Everybody else seemed to know him. I never see this guy before. He comes in, talks to me about the Necronomicon, and he's like, "Yeah, you got to get the Necronomicon. It's the book of the spirits of the dead. Here's how you do it." And he just gives me this, and he's like a couple years older than me. Tells me that stuff. The next day he comes in, works again, does another shift there, tells me some more stuff about the Necronomicon, and then I never saw him again in my life. Like, never came back into work, never came around. I asked people about him. I'm like, "Hey, where's that one guy?" And they're like, "Who?" Nobody even remembered talking, like ever seeing this guy. But I worked with him for
He
2
was a
days.
messenger for you.
Yeah, well, and so that does make me wonder, because I've had those kinds of experiences. Is like, was that even a human being, or was that Satan there? Was that Lucifer taking a body? I don't know.
For my part, the first time I crossed black magic, when I wanted to curse my stepfather, I was 13 years old, and I don't know why I didn't turn to God to make this curse, but I went on a French website of black magic, and I drew an inverted pentagram and wrote the curse I wanted to make to my stepfather, and I put a drop of blood in the pentagram, and it opened for me the way to black magic. I've waited long years before returning to black magic. And when I came across one of your video on YouTube, I said, this guy is a genius. He knows how to make happy with demons in physical appearance. And I must tell you, you are like my master, because I studied so much from you, and from your path workings and your videos, and the 9 gatekeepers. I was new for each ritual. So it's
No, thank you for that. The vision that I had, even when I was like maybe 19, 20 years old, the vision I had for myself was actually sitting in a room in a temple, teaching people and working magic together. And so that's what I kind of wanted to do. Like, even if I wrote books or whatever, I wanted to do something where I could sit in a room and teach people. And I guess one of the things I've learned is the internet becomes that room. The internet can be a room that we can all sit in and have conversations, teach each other, learn from each other. And it really is, it really has been an amazing thing. It's interesting, because you say, this guy's a genius. And I don't know that I am. What I am is I'm a good listener. When the spirits speak, I hear it, and I listen, and they tell them, because I didn't want to do video. I never thought first off, I didn't think it was going to be successful. Second, I didn't think I was going to be good at it. I don't think I'm especially attractive. I don't think I'm a good speaker. I think I mumble and I stumble a lot. I judge myself a lot of for a lot of the different things that the flaws that I bring. But nevertheless, it wasn't just that Timothy was asking me, or a couple other people before him had asked me to do video. It was that the spirits, and specifically Azazel, was saying, "Do it, do it." And so I could hear that and go, "Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I don't believe in it. It doesn't matter that I don't see where it's going to go. I could feel the magnetism of it, and there was something interesting there. It's like the internet has created this wave of information and a wave of movement in our culture, and like I have a hard time taking credit and saying I'm a genius, because I'm just a guy that jumped on a surfboard and rode that wave, you know, and I looked around and I'm not seeing too many other people doing it. And
It's
that
especially
is
when
another
I
thing.
saw your soul travel course that I said this guy is a genius because I was able to travel through the different planes you explained in your course, and it worked a lot for me. It changed my life forever.
Thank
And,
you. No, that's awesome to hear.
it's one of the reasons I said you a genius, because there's so many people on earth and so few are able to give what you give in Become a Living God. It's incredible.
No, thanks. You know, well, I think honestly, I think a couple things are there. One is I don't mind risky. I don't mind risk. I don't mind taking risks. You know, a lot of things that I love doing are very risky things. I just love doing risky things. Black magic is a risky, dangerous thing, and so because a lot of people, there is a risk in filming yourself doing a video, you know, filming yourself doing a ritual. Because what if you're doing it wrong? You know, like in my mind, most of my rituals I've only done myself. I've never had anybody watch me do a ritual and tell me if I'm doing it right. But you do a video of it, and then everybody can go, oh, you know, you're doing it wrong. Oh, you didn't call that watchtower the right way, or you didn't say this right. And it's like, oh, that there's a huge risk, and also there is a real pain that you experience when you put these things out into the world. Even though there's a whole lot of good and a whole lot of praise for it, there's a whole lot of pain also with even just the insecurity of like exposing yourself to that level. But also the attacks that come and all of that. Most people can't withstand the kind of pain that I can withstand. And I think there's probably a part of that comes from my abusive childhood, that I was always being hurt in my childhood. And so I always knew that I could make it. Okay, even though I'm getting hurt right now, that doesn't matter. I'll make it through. I've always made it through. And so having that attitude is like people can threaten me. They can threaten my child. Even I've had that a lot. People are constantly using black magic against me, social media attacks, media attacks. It is crazy the amount of pain that you do have to be able to tolerate, I think, to rise to this level. And that is whether, it's funny because when I was going through, I think the worst part of when I was learning how to adapt to the hate that was coming into me around 2014, it got really hard for me to handle that. And I started kind of looking into the psychology of it and looking into like who else is hated like this. And it's like, God damn it, everybody who's doing anything important, even, I looked at like Maroon 5, the band Maroon 5, they're getting all kinds of hate, and they've got all kinds of different meme pages and stuff. And Axl Rose, I'm like, Axl Rose gets so much hate. And I'm like, I love that dude's music. I love that dude. Like, I don't know him personally, but goddamn, he's been an influence in my life. Same thing with Marilyn Manson. I look at the hate that Marilyn Manson has always gotten. Even before people were accusing him of stuff. Back when I was a kid listening to Marilyn Manson, people were like, "Oh, this guy's a poser. I'm like, no, he's not. You can feel it. I could feel the demons are coming through his music and speaking to me." So yeah. Anyways, I got way off topic there, but Not that not that I'm at the Maroon 5 or Marilyn Manson level or anything, but there is something of like there's a certain amount of hatred that you have to be able to tolerate, and a certain amount of pain you have to be able to tolerate to be in the public view. And I think as you get more and more in the public view, that seems to get more intense, and it's not a positive thing. It's a really negative aspect of our culture.
Yeah, it is.
And you see that with like Britney Spears. It's like Britney Spears. Everybody loves her, and they've got this jealousy of her, and they hate. And then when she goes crazy, everybody's secretly cheering. They're like, "Oh, I knew that bitch was gonna. I knew that bitch was gonna fall. I knew it was gonna come to her." And then she goes completely crazy because all of this media attention, and people have made a complete spectacle of her. And it's like, oh man, the psychotic toxicity of what our culture does to with any kind of celebrity. And I'm gonna be honest, like I know that with the shakedown that's happened, and with the full-on attacks that's happened, and with getting shut down off of standard social media, Become a Living God doesn't have the same reach it used to. We're not reaching the same amount of people, and you know what, I'm okay with that, because that got really intense. It got really intense to have that many people, especially people who aren't really black magicians. When I'm sitting in a room talking to people, I want to talk to people that actually understand what we're talking about. We're all talking about the same thing. And so that's why I love talking to you. That's why I love being on Odyssey, because it's like I feel like I'm there with my friends. I'm not hanging out with a bunch of enemies trying to shit on me all the time.
Yeah, for sure, you're a friend.
Yeah.
I have one last question because I have 3 minutes left on my account. I'm sorry.
Perfect.
What brought you to Haitian Vaudou and the idea to ride the spider and the green butterfly?
Oh yeah, great question. All right. This is gonna sound silly, but I always kind of wanted to learn voodoo, and a lot of it was like kind of this is why it's gonna sound silly. A lot of it was because of lyrics from music. Okay, so boom, spider green butterfly. But I was listening to Rob Zombie and White Zombie, and every now and again he'd mention his lyrics, Voodoo Man. And I'm like, oh, Voodoo Man, that'd be cool. Okay, I got a picture of that. And then Insane Clown Posse would have voodoo in the background. They have different voodoo things in their lyrics, and so that really started popping off in my head, I think, when I was a kid. Listening to this music and going, I don't know, that I feel like music has always really spoken to me as far as like giving me ideas. I'd listen to Metallica and Ride the Lightning and Call of Cthulhu. I would sit there and listen to this music, and I would create the ritual in my mind as I'm listening to it, and I would see the other worlds and get into the whole vision of it. I don't just listen to music casually. I get really into music, and so that was the first like thread that I can remember in my life of like having a real attraction to voodoo. Was like, there's something cool in there, cool enough that the black magic musicians that I'm listening to are winding this into their lyrics. Okay, but it was kind of one of those untouchable things. How am I gonna, a white guy in Utah, how am I gonna learn fucking voodoo? And so I figured at some point maybe I would go move down to New Orleans and learn it or something. But then when I was writing Baneful Magic, and I'm watching the timer so I don't run out of time here. While I'm writing Baneful Magic, I did a couple voodoo spells in that, and I realized I had no idea what I was doing. And so I actually used voodoo. I used the little bit that I'd found, and I started calling on Legba to open the doors and find me a teacher. At the same time, to Prince, my teacher was across the ocean over in France, and he was doing a ritual to find a student. And so the two really just linked up, and he just started teaching me a little bit here and there, and then it turned into basically the book. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you, Koetting, for your time and your patience.
Awesome.
And would you be okay to make a third interview?
Yeah. Let's keep rolling with it. I'm enjoying talking to you about it, and I've gotten some good comments from people that enjoyed our last episode too. So yeah, let's keep doing this.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Doug. Have a good one. Bye.